That could happen. Just wait for it. That musical introduction is our way of saying, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday here at First Unitarian Society, where independent thinkers gather in a safe, nurturing, and mercifully warm environment to explore issues of social, spiritual, and ethical significance as we try to make a difference in this world, a very timely purpose on the eve of Martin Luther King Day. I'm Steve Goldberg, a proud, multi-talented member of this congregation, and I'd like to extend a special welcome to any guests, visitors, or newcomers. If this is your first time at First Unitarian Society, you're in for a real treat, and I think you'll find that this is a special place. If you'd like to learn more about our special buildings, we'll be offering a guided tour after the service. Just gather over here by the windows, and we'll take care of you. And speaking of taking care of each other, I offer a gentle reminder to silence those pesky electronic devices so that you can avoid the shame of public flogging. In just a minute, we'll be gathering in a moment of centering silence so that we can really enjoy the service together and be fully present with each other. I know that the service today will touch your heart, stir your spirit, and trigger one or two new thoughts. We're glad you're here, so please join in a moment of centering silence to be followed by our ingathering hymn.
Stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. 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 Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We'll feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and peace and freedom. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, our world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Remaining standing for our opening words and our chalice lighting. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is Love's Hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth, unfolding ever beautiful, ever strange. Here, compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate, in this abode. May we find comfort and courage. Here may our sight become vision, to see the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. We join in the words of Deborah Falk as our chalice lighting, printed in the order of service, as together we say, we seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. I invite you to turn towards each other and offer a warm greeting. Can I shake your hand? She's like, I am so over that.
Yeah.
That works too. Sorry. Yeah, sure. Yes, come all join us for a time together this morning. Anyone is welcome to come up.
It's not. Oh, that's a good guess, though.
Looks like there's an owl in there.
It does. It does look like there's an owl. And if you want to meet the owl afterwards.
I got this.
You do. I like that. What's its name?
Oh, that's great.
There's a few stuffies out there.
Yeah.
Come on up. You do have penguins. I
It's a
love
great
penguins.
penguin. It's a perfect day for a penguin.
It is a perfect day for a penguin.
There's a lot of snow outside.
There is a lot of snow outside, yes.
There's a lot of sunlight coming in.
What'd you make at home? What? An igloo. The- I bet. An igloo. Yes, perfect day for an igloo, too. Penguins and igloos.
Yes.
Hello, Leslie.
Hello, Doug.
It's
Hello.
really fun. This is the first time we have done a time for all ages together. So it'll be a big adventure for us.
It will be
for
fun.
all of us.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you'll have to let us know how we did afterwards.
yeah, nicely.
Right. So I'm really glad to have you all here with us today. I want to tell you about this really cool thing that happened. My husband and I were driving somewhere, and we saw this car pulled over with its hood up, and it looked like this person was having trouble. We're not very good with cars, but we thought, let's just see if we can lend a hand, do something kind that would be helpful for this person. And so we pulled over, and it turned out that Ben's car, his battery was dead, and his car needed to be jump-started, which for those of you who have never done that or have never had to have that done, don't know about it, we take these fancy cables, we attach it to our car, we attached it to his car, we sent some electricity his way, and then he was able to start his car and get on his way. Have you?
Have you? Yeah.
Which was a wonderful thing because Ben shared with us that he was on his way to the hospital because his wife was about to have a baby. And we were able to help him get there in time so that he could be there for when the baby was born, we hope, we think. So it was a really wonderful thing. And it made me think about how lots of times it's the small things that we do that make these big things possible for other people.
Yeah, it's so easy sometimes to forget how we make possibilities for other people by being kind to them. And I've been the recipient of that kindness before. Your story reminded me of something actually kind of similar, but I was the person who got an act of kindness from someone else. Many years ago, when I first lived in Wisconsin the first time, one of the members of our congregation who had been a member for forever. Everyone loved her very much. When she was traveling in Chicago, she got very sick and she had to go into an emergency room because she was so ill. And they admitted her for several days, and the days went into weeks, and she got very, very sick. And everyone in the church was super worried about her, especially because she was all the way down in Chicago by herself. Well, this happened to be a time where every week I would take the train down to Chicago to go to school. And so I just told them that I would go say hello and give Helen our love. And so that week I actually drove down to Chicago, which of course in and of itself is a very scary thing to do. And I went to this hospital for the first time, and it was huge. I mean, it took up city blocks, and I went in the main entrance, and I looked around in this large place, and I was absolutely terrified and overwhelmed. I had no idea where to go, and I must have been standing there looking really dazed and confused, which happens a lot, but I guess this was a particularly intense moment of that. And this woman came up to me who was dressed in a nurse's outfit and asked me if there was something that she could do to help me. And I told her why I was there, and so she went over to the welcome desk and she found out where Helen's room was, and she said, "Oh, that room is actually way across the complex from here." And so she said, "I tell you what, I'll help you find the room." And as we walked, I mean, we had to go outside and several blocks. As we walked, I found out she was on her lunch break, and she took part of her lunch break to help me find the room of this person. And the thing is, by her being so kind to me, it really helped me concentrate on why I was there, and that I was there to try to help someone who was sick and probably feeling very lonely, to know that people cared about her. And so this woman, a total stranger, her taking a few minutes on her lunch break to help me find the room helped me really focus on why I was there and not feel so scared myself. So she created the possibility for me to be kind to someone else by being kind to me.
Mm-hmm. I love stories like that because they remind us that we all have this amazing power to make things possible for other people. We can all do that if we stop a moment and we're kind and we're generous and we try to be helpful. We can make all kinds of things possible.
You know, one day that I cooked breakfast all by myself.
You cooked breakfast all by yourself?
That is super helpful.
That is very nice. I'm sure your family liked that.
Yeah. You can come over to my house anytime.
Yes.
And I particularly think about how here at First Unitarian Society, so many things are made possible by the generosity of other people here. And so I brought along a little wagon of possibilities, and there's a lot of stuff in here, including an owl that we're not going to have a chance to visit with. But I want to take a look at a couple, 2-3 things that have to do with how people are so generous here. Is that right? Do we have time for that?
We certainly do.
All
We'll
right.
make time for that.
All right.
Oh,
Take
what
a
a
look.
great how exciting.
Ooh.
So, oh, yeah. Yeah, so this is what, a jar of money.
It's a
So,
jar of money.
wow.
Okay. All right, let's sit down, and you know what? After
It's-
we're done, when we go out there, you can all
You
take
can- This, I know.
Okay, sit down. Let's sit down, guys.
Focus. Yes, exactly. It really is full of possibilities, isn't it? Yes. So the money reminds me of a couple of different things. It reminds me of the various ways every week that we have the opportunity to be generous. And as is true of every week, part of that money doesn't just stay here. It goes back out into the community. And also, this reminds me that this is the last Sunday when we are collecting our guest at your table offerings. That all through the holidays, we invited everyone to take home a guest at your table box and to collect change when you came together for lunch or any time during the day, and bring it back so that the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee could offer a sense of generosity to people all over the world. And so there are at least a couple of different important ways that we can be generous by sharing our resources of our money together.
Yep.
What else? What do you have there?
Okay, so I have a jar, it looks like salsa. It's actually chili. It's a
Ooh,
jar
yum.
of chili. And the reason why this is a
You like
possibility here is because last night, about 6 of our coming of age teens and a couple of their elders were in that kitchen working so hard to create a chili dinner to bring to the men's shelter here in Madison so that the men who were staying overnight there would have a great hot chili dinner before going to sleep. And that's awesome because that helped them to sleep well and to get the rest that they need and to keep their bodies healthy so they could, do the stuff that they need to do in their lives without being sick and without being too cold and without being hungry. So this is a great thing that they took the time and generously gave of their time and their efforts to make that possible for the men staying at the shelter.
Ah, that's great. So let's see. Let's find one more thing. We have time to. The owl. I don't know what the owl is about, but I do know a little bit about what this is about. So you'll notice that there is a picture. And actually, this would have been a good one, Leslie, for you to pull out because I know generally what this is about. But what is this a picture of, Leslie? Do you know what this is?
That is a picture of a bunch of our religious education kids stomping on seeds out in the prairie so that the next spring a lot of beautiful things would grow in the prairie, making our prairie more beautiful, making homes for the butterflies and for other insects. And yeah, that's what that is. Yes, it's a buffalo stuff. You were there, weren't you? Buffalo stuff.
So this reminds me of the generosity of all the people that we need who volunteer every week with our children's religious education program and other programs as well, that our teachers and so many other volunteers are needed to make this work. So that is also another way that our generosity opens up possibility. So that seems like a good segue to invite you to move towards your classes. And as you do, we hope that this week that your friendships and the new ideas and the ways that you think about the world are possibilities that open for you. So,
All right. Thanks, you guys.
we'll take and we'll sing together, Soon the Day Will Arrive.
Hymn number 146, a stand in all the ways that we can and do. Soon the day will arrive when we will be together and no longer will be live in fear. And the children will smile without wondering whether on that day thunder clouds will appear. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, you and me. Some have dreamed, some have died to make a bright tomorrow, and our vision remains in our hearts. Now the torch must be passed with new hope, not in sorrow, and a promise to make a new start. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, if we care, you and me. Wait and see what a world there can be if we share, you and me.
If you'll take your seat, we move into a time, instead of doing our typical reading, I'd like to invite us to a few minutes of quiet and reflection as we are in the midst of this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, to have a chance for us to explore together a little bit about our own private thoughts as well as the larger call that this weekend offers to us. I invite you now for a reflective time, spoken and silent. Spirit of life, we come into each other's presence this day, seeking a part of ourselves, knowing that we do not live alone, and knowing we cannot live fully if we are for ourselves alone. And in that spirit, in that deep truth, we gather in thanks for the life, ministry, continuing legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. Not because we wish to worship him as an idealized saint, but because we wish to embody his dream as a possibility we make real, and to acknowledge that it is the humanness of great people that is as essential to the power of their message. We gather with full knowledge of each and every person's shortcomings, including our own. Our lives set before us many tasks, and often we are not equal to them. We fall short of our own expectations. We believe we do not know enough, that we're not always patient enough, and in a place of anger or difficulty, we feel like we do not have the strength or the vision. Sometimes we feel lost and wait in vain to know what we are to do. And while it may be painful to acknowledge our shortcomings, here we are together, Spirit of life. Not always perfect, not as wise sometimes as we would wish, but wonderfully, mysteriously human and alive. And so, week after week, we come to this time together to renew our hope, to share and hear stories that give us courage, to sing songs that give us a sense of hope, to hear words and to speak them ourselves from a place of deeper wisdom. Most of all, on this day when we remember the enduring power of love and justice, may the touch of hands, the sight of faces, may the sound of voices lifted in song and affirmation restore in us a faith that this world may be whole and all its people one. For just a moment, I invite you to your own private reflection. What is the call of justice? What is the life and words of Martin Luther King Jr. calling, asking you on this day? May we be together for just a moment in quiet. One Thursday afternoon, the phone rang, and she moved to the phone and answered it, and on the other side, across the miles, was the sound of the voice of her daughter and her graduate school daughter. And this was not their usual Saturday call time, and it was not typically her pattern to call other days these days in graduate school. And so she was curious why she was getting the phone call and began the conversation vibrantly enough. Angie, how are you doing? How are things going with your catering job? I hope they're not working you too hard. And for a couple of minutes, they talked, but she could tell that something was on Angie's mind. And so there was a little pause in the conversation, and Angie said quietly, "So, Mom, I have this job, but I'm coming towards the time of graduation, and I have all of these fees that I need to pay in order for me to finish up my time here in school. And then I have to do my initial deposit for my summer internship. And while I am working as hard as I can, I won't be paid for at least another 2 weeks. And I've tried everything I can think of, and I'm stuck. I don't have enough money to do what I need to do to move forward. And so I need to ask you for a loan, some money." And her mom said, "Well, how much money do you need?" And she waited for just a moment, afraid of the sticker shock that would happen when she heard the sum that her daughter Angie needed. And Angie said, "Well, at most I need like $1,000, and really it would be a loan. I would pay you back as soon as I could." And her mom instantly felt herself breathe a sigh of relief. And she said, "Okay, $1,000 we can so do, not a problem. But how should we get it to you? Should we try to see if we can transfer it into your bank account?" And she waited, and there was silence on the other end of the phone. But eventually, because she was listening so intently, she could softly hear the sound of her grown graduate school daughter crying on the other end of the line. And so she said, "Angie, what is wrong? What is really going on? Tell me now." And still, there was just crying on the other end of the phone. And somehow, her mother knew that whatever was happening, she was just so emotional that she couldn't speak. And after a few minutes, Angie said, No, I am sorry. I just can't. That's it. I just feel so terrible having to ask you and Dad for money. You know that I've tried to do as much of this by myself as I could." And her voice broke again, and she cried so hard. If she could have continued to speak, she would have said to her mother, I feel so helpless right now, so overwhelmed that I have worked so hard for so long, and yet I got to this place where I felt like there was nothing I could do. And I felt sad and overwhelmed and somehow ashamed to ask you." And from some deep place of wisdom, her mother knew on some level that there must be some deep sadness going on for her daughter. And so she said, "Sweetie, you have worked so hard for so long, and you have been very careful, too careful, about asking your dad and I to help. We can do this. We would be happy to do this for you. We're okay, and so are you. Take the money and move forward in your life." And for several more moments, she could hear the sound of her now grown daughter, but a daughter that in some way would always be her little girl, crying helplessly from thousands of miles away. This is a reflection on what it means to be a people of generosity and therefore of possibility. And therefore, it is a sort of reflection on stewardship. But the thing is that houses of faith need to talk about money. And not just when we are asking you for money. We need to talk with you about money because money is one of the places in our lives that has deep power. Power for incredible good and for change, and also power for incredible difficulty, and sometimes deep fear and anxiety, and often shame. And if we are not creating space for you to talk about, think about, confront everything that is powerful in your life, then we are not fully doing our job as a community of faith. We need to talk about money because it is a place where you can find, whatever your financial situation, the possibility to do what you need in your life. But it is also often the place where each of us struggle and wake up in the wee hours worried about what we will do and how we will pay all of our bills this month. And many of us have no place in our lives that we can talk openly about that fear, that shame, that difficulty. This needs to be a space where we can talk about that together in love and look for possibility in the midst of all of it. The thing is that one of the most essential things that we do in our lives again and again is that we take all of the gifts that we are given and very honestly assess what is true about those gifts. Those gifts include certainly our financial resources, but they also include our time and our affection. And all of those things are an opportunity for us to honestly think about what is true about what we have been given, what we know to be true of the world around us, the people we care about, the ideals that speak to us deeply, and for us carefully and thoughtfully to see what we can do to address them with the gifts that we have been given. It is always something that is both incredibly life-giving and sometimes deeply difficult. And yet that work is an essential part of what we try to foster here, to remind you of what is already possible in your life with the gifts that you already have, if you could find the space and the mindset to see them as they really are. So throughout time, great people have helped us reflect on the power of our resources in changing the world. And it may be one of the greatest legacies of Martin Luther King Jr. that he left us a range of truth as he addressed working for justice and peace that continues to speak to us on so many different levels. When he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, King marveled in his acceptance speech at the resources that we all have available to us and at how far we have to go to give all people yet their fair share in this world. And he asked his audience, why should there be hunger and privation in any land, in any city, on any table, when we have the resources and the scientific know-how to provide all of us with the basic necessities of life? As he looked at both the grandeur of the earth and the accomplishments of humanity, he observed there is no deficit in human resources. The deficit is in human will. And in our own faith, long before it was a slogan, we Unitarian Universalists have found a variety of ways to stand with those that love and to give whatever we can in service to that deeper, clarifying, empowering sense of love. And so it is important for us to continue that legacy of talking honestly, bravely, compassionately about our resources. Because if we really move into those truths, we find within us the power to be generous. And from that generosity, we create the possibility that can change our own lives, the lives of people that we love, that can change the world. The philosopher Jacob Needleman wrote this: "What is most necessary for human beings and what is given to them in abundance are experiences, especially experiences of the forces within themselves. That is our most essential food. That is our most essential wealth. If we consciously receive this abundance, the universe will pour into us what is called life in Judaism, or spirit in Christianity, light in Islam, or power in Taoism." And so, Needleman concluded, "If I had to say what I think the role of money is in human life, I would say that one needs money to live and survive in the outer world, to fulfill one's obligations to the community and to nature, but that above and beyond this, the role of money is to serve as an instrument for getting understanding, to come to the very core of civilization and to see within it what are the deeper truths, to look at the power of that resource and let it help us understand our place in all things, not separate ourselves from that truth. If we are to take seriously the supposition that money at its best may help us have a deeper understanding of what is true in our lives, then we are asked to explore it with a sense of possibility ourselves. The thing about money is that it has great power in our world. And that power sometimes is labeled good and sometimes labeled evil. But it asks us to think carefully about that power and how we interact with it. In the Eastern tradition, in exploring the power of finances and money, they point out again and again that basically it asks us to confront three significant illusions in our life. First, that we have a substantial self. The thing is, we are always more than we embody in any moment. So much of ourselves is defined around our job, how much money we make, the quality of our housing, the things that we possess as indicators of our true value. And the thing is, all of them are distractions from the possibilities that are present within us that are much deeper than those external indicators. What if we saw money as just another resource, as a gift that can be a spiritual practice? What if we understood that the way that we utilize that resource of money is another act, if we will let it, of loving kindness? And the thing is, the way we as a culture spend our money right now seems to be a polar opposite embodiment from loving kindness. Just the fact that we spend so much resource on things that do not help us sustain human life or the life of this planet, in and of itself reminds us of the negative power of money. What if we were brought to deeper connection with what is powerful and meaningful in our lives? What if we didn't think of it so much in terms of judgment, but in terms of whether our use of it is skillful or unskillful in service to what we really want to do? Secondly, again and again, we explore the illusion that we have a permanent self. We work very hard in our own lives to escape our own finitude, our own mortality. And we use money as one of the magical forces that will save us from the force of change in our lives. This year alone, we will spend at least $160 billion globally on things like makeup, skincare, fragrances, cosmetic surgery, diet supplements. In the United States, we spend almost double on these products than we do on education. And money will never stop the process of change and aging. If we allowed ourselves to live from a deeper understanding of our impermanence, we would be freed to be really present to what is true and not ensnared in this false sense of desperation to escape the change that is just a part of the flow of life. Over and over again, we struggle with the reality that we have a separate self. Taoism suggests that the nature of the world is always interconnection and that this extends to all of our resources. The way that we utilize our time, the way that we utilize our money, our affection, all of these deeply connect us to the world. And the thing is, often when we feel out of sync with that deep connection, we experience a sense of alienation and shame and discord. And Brené Brown reminds us that the biggest difference between people who are able in vulnerable times to move forward in their lives and not be overwhelmed by the vulnerability is not the degree of the vulnerability, but that people who expect that life again and again will call them to be vulnerable are better able to take those moments and have them be called to a deeper sense of connection with all that is, rather than a place of alienation. What if the next time that you worried deeply about any resource in your life, you understood that that vulnerable moment was a powerful invitation to deeper connection, rather than soul-wrenching isolation and loneliness? In each of these illusions, we are called, if we think of them in a right, skillful way, to generosity, to move from a place not of separation, but of deep connection, to understand the power of our impermanence and change, and to allow ourselves to move into it, to understand that so much of what we believe about what makes us important as people is an illusion. What would it mean for us to be a people of generosity? How in your own life can you bring about greater good? How can you give yourself more honestly to your relationship with all of the resources that you have? How can that honest relationship call you to greater truth, deeper love, a more meaningful life? May we make space in our time together to explore that with honesty, with bravery, with love. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be. Every week, as we move into the time of our offering, it is that opportunity in a smaller way for us to explore the deeper call to what is true in our lives. And so, as we move into that time and we have our offering, I invite Drew to just quickly share with us a little bit about the anthem.
So today's anthem is a setting of a Langston Hughes poem, prominent African-American poet, and it's a setting by an African-American composer, Andre Thomas. It speaks of the dream, the same dream that Martin Luther King Jr. spoke of in his famous speech. And there is so much wisdom in this poem and so much similarity to Dr. King's speech. I wonder if he did not channel it a little bit in his improvised part of his speech.
Our offering will now be given and received. Part of the offering will go to the Greater Madison Urban League. May we be a generous people. In our service, when we take a few moments to acknowledge the importance of our volunteers on Sunday morning, it is a chance for us to remind ourselves that it is easy in a congregation this large to live into the illusion that each and every gift that every person offers isn't necessary. And so we remind ourselves that every week there are always open spots in our volunteer programs here that could utilize your skill and your time when you are able. And so we are deeply grateful today that our greeters were Lynn Scobie and Gail Bliss, that our ushers were Bob Alt and Brian Chanis, and Daniel Bradley. Hospitality is being provided by Nancy Kosef and Blaze Thompson. Our lay ministers are Dennis Collins and Ann Smiley. And John Powell will be our tour guide. Again, you can come up here after the service here by the ramp. Our welcome and info table has been staffed and will be staffed by Rob Savage. There are always ways that you can offer help on Sunday and beyond. A couple of opportunities we want to make sure you know about. The FUS Sustainable Transportation Group asks that you take a moment and stop by their table in the Commons today to learn more about their efforts to help make our services more accessible, joyful, and climate-friendly. Stop by and take their 1-minute survey that you can complete or take with you, and it will help us do some matchmaking for people who need rides on Sunday mornings and other times. I also want to let you know that in February we will dedicate a couple of our Friday noon musicals to the composer John Harbison, who is one of the most distinguished American composers. Pulitzer Prize winner in music, MacArthur Genius Grant. In February, Madison will join cities around the world celebrating Harbison's 80th birthday. So I hope you will join us for those 2 times in February to honor his legacy. I invite us to rise in all the ways that we do and join in our closing hymn, hymn number 149. Lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
May we remember that each of us is an artist whose task is to shape life into some semblance of the patterns we dream about. May the molding of our shared tomorrows and the times we may never see be our task together. We extinguish the light, but not the light of wisdom, not the warmth of love and compassion, not the fire of justice. These remain in our lives until we gather in this place again. I invite you to take another moment together in our shared worship time as we enjoy the gift of music.